Welcome to another episode of the Reboot Chronicles, a no-holds-barred forum with global leaders, authors, entrepreneurs, and CEOs about how organizations stay focused on growth and innovation in unprecedented times. I'm your host, Dean DeBias, coming to you live from Reviv's North American headquarters in Chicago, and we would like to thank you for joining us from around the globe today. I'd like to welcome Adrien Nussenbaum, the co-founder and co-CEO of Mirakl, who recently closed a $300 million round valued the company at about $1.5 billion, a nice round number there. They're based in Paris, Boston, London, Munich. They're a marketplace platform that allows consumers and businesses to host transactions between global buyers and sellers of products and services and things. So lots going on at this company. It's good to see you again. Adrien, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be on.
Yeah, maybe it's best to, most people understand marketplaces. You're not an e-commerce tool provider. You literally provide a marketplace, and there's a lot of them out there. What's different about Mirakl from other marketplaces, I guess?
So as you said, we Mirakl as such, we're not a marketplace in the sense that we don't host our own transactions of goods and services. We're really a tool that was built to power marketplaces for other companies. So right. We believe, and we've been believers in this since almost I've been an entrepreneur, that marketplace as a business model is really the end game of digital, because it's the only business model that captures the true ability to create network effects and large scale networks, which is really what internet was intentioned to be in a way. And so marketplaces are also complex models when you work with a large number of third-party vendors and you need to manage them and grow them and supervise them and curate them. And with our expertise, prior expertise in marketplace, we've captured that know-how from a technical and business standpoint, and we've packaged it in a solution. And so Mirakl is different in the sense that it's really the company that's allowing every business out there who's not Amazon or Alibaba, like one of those few digital giants ruling the world, we're allowing those businesses to fight back and compete and continue to thrive. And that's kind of our mission.
And probably want to add Walmart into that list. They're gaining their marketplaces in the States anyway, is pretty popular. So tell us about 2020. How'd you guys do? Can you give us some of your stats and numbers and performance? You raised, a nice wad of cash, as we say here in the States, and so I'm sure your use of funds has been very smartly deployed. But what the results look like in 2020?
Yeah, so I mean, as you mentioned, we closed Q3 with this $300 million raise at a $1.5 billion valuation, which is a good milestone for a business, for any business, I would say. And the year has been a very strong year. It's been a growth, 110% growth. We've topped above $3.1 billion in gross merchandise value throughout our live clients. But beyond that, I think it's been a year where, as we've talked zillions of times about the impact of COVID, so I'm not just going to talk about it again. But from our angle, we've spent the last 8 years building Mirakl, explaining businesses who often have a hard time changing, transforming themselves because it's difficult to do that. We've been telling them, you need to embrace new business models, marketplace being one of them. It's a natural evolution of who you are. It's bringing resilience. It's bringing more customer engagement. It's bringing more value to your clients. And 2020 has been the year that has proven that to the world through the growth of our customers, through the stories of our customers. We had so many clients, for example, in retail, who had to shut stores in March. And the only thing that kept them selling was the marketplace, where they had this, resiliency through a broad network of vendors that were on the marketplace, and they could have that, be independent from their own products. So that was a great proof. We had an amazing, I would say, and a happy story where the French government, President Macron actually asked us to launch a platform that could facilitate providing PPE products quickly to frontline workers. And in 48 hours, the Mirakl teams actually launched a marketplace ourselves. We did not provide the software to someone else. We decided let's use our tool and create a marketplace, which was called Stop COVID-19. And within
very blunt name that works.
Yeah, but imagine March 10th and March 15th you're live and you're selling first hundreds of thousands and then millions of gallons of gels and masks and gowns, and to that date it's still unfortunately up and running and working, but it's a great proof of how marketplaces are the most powerful business model, digital business model out there.
Right. Speaking of lockdowns and restrictions, it looks like you're in your Boston office, and I see people walking around. So you're somewhat open. That's good. It's a good sign.
We're
restrictively open.
It's a health, mindful, employee protection, mindful, desperate resistance to keep the link between people going. We're a French company originally, and I came here 5 years ago. And when you want to build a software company in the US and you're not from the US, building a great team with a real culture was key in our success. And so for me, having people not see each other has really been devastating. I mean, and today I hugged people. I mean, I shouldn't say that, but I socially distance hugged people that I hadn't seen physically in 9 months.
Yes.
And it's horrible to live in that situation.
I'm a hugger too. I get accused of all types of things, but it's like it's hard to.
But I just took off the mask for the recording.
I appreciate.
So everyone know I'm not a mask anti-mask guy.
No, I appreciate that. And your culture kind of calls for contact, interaction, like the marketplace. And some companies have done well with that. We've had a lot of CEOs on that have really managed through it well, because they were also very much a remote culture company. A lot of like a Salesforce.com, just to be clear. Most of their people were out in the field anyway. So it's interesting to see how you're responding, especially with multicultural, multi-geography. It's we've found that at Revive to be an issue as well. And usually the people at the home office get the best treatment. And so hopefully we'll turn in the corner there. Let's dig into your numbers a little bit. Can we why did you choose to be both a B2B marketplace provider as well as consumer B2C, and what's the split look like there?
So today the split is 65% of our business is driven by B2C companies. So our retail clients like Best Buy Canada, Carrefour, or J.Crew, Madewell, Express, and a lot of the top retailers we work for. And 35% of the business is coming from B2B organizations, and those really split between manufacturers. So we work with companies like Airbus, Toyota Material Handling, or Siemens, and HPE, and distributors, so wholesale distributors. So we have customers like UNFI, largest wholesale distributor of healthy organic food, $24 billion business in the US. And so we didn't really choose to go after B2B and B2C. We chose to go after organizations who have built great assets and have the potential and the need to evolve their business model, because the world around them is changing. The way their customers buy is changing. The way their partners sell is changing. And marketplace happens to be a great answer to tackling this evolution. So that's kind of how we've been going about this B2B, B2C versatility in our business go-to market.
And if you break down B2C, brands versus retailers, whatever, e-commerce providers, let's put those in another bucket. What's that look like?
So today it's still highly skewed towards retailers, probably around 80%. But what's interesting is that the evolution of our customer base also reflects the evolution of e-commerce in general, where we see more and more brands, going the D2C route.
Yes.
And trying to figure out how they should do D2C. Is it under their own site? Is it by joining other marketplaces? We've seen Nike join Amazon and then leave Amazon, Adidas doing the same.
Right.
And I think there's like a, growing conscience from brands who are realizing that there is huge danger in letting Amazon thrive and dominating by having this attitude towards sellers where you could be high and suddenly at the bottom of the search, where Amazon Basics is learning from what sellers sell and then developing their own product. I mean, we've talked about, as amazing as this company is, there is a need for resistance, and
there is a lot of backlash here in the States, as you know, living here. Your Boston accent gives it away, by the way, that you're in America. We were talked about it on the show too. The pandemic made it even worse. So you're talking about Amazon kind of like doing the traditional retail model where, hey, we're going to do a lot of private labeling through our analytics. We can figure out what's going to sell. And so that's normal. A lot of retailers do the private labeling, typically with the same manufacturer that they're selling it, but with Amazon, not so much. So there's a lot of angst there. But then the pushback is getting worse because during a pandemic in the States, at least, people have moved to two things: consolidated shopping, and they've gone with the big brands because a lot of the small guys were closed, obviously. So people like Amazon and Walmart and a few others will just keep throwing in there, have just grown more than they should have in 2020. And it's hard to see that turn around. There is a resistance that says, hey, you should buy local, you should do this, you should do that. But people, they're getting used to those two things, doing pickup at a Walmart and consolidated shopping, getting as much as they can at one place versus visiting a lot of stores, even from an e-commerce point of view. So it's a hard thing to turn around. I guess that's more commentary than anything else. But it brings up a great question with a client like Best Buy. They finally figured out they were one of the best e-commerce sites out there for maybe over a decade, right? And then marketplaces hit and everyone's like, hey, you can't just sell stuff on your own site or in your own store. You have to go where people are. So what does that mean? Because a lot of these brands, they're on Amazon, they're on Alibaba, they're on Walmart potentially, especially the mid-sized guys. What else should they be doing with companies like you? I mean, how many marketplaces should you be on for instance for a Best Buy?
I think it's I don't think it's so much how many, but it's which ones. I think that we see it from our customer base. We really work. If I focus on retail, because we're talking about retail, but
sure.
we work really for companies that go from digital native startups all the way to Kroger, largest retailer in America.
Yep.
And what's interesting is that
largest grocer anyway. Yeah.
Largest grocer. I mean, in terms of revenue made on the U.S. soil, but that's a. It's interesting to see how all of them are Mirakl clients. They all use the same technology, but the way they use it, the way they actually orient the strategy of their marketplace is always very personalized. It's if you take a Kroger, which announced that they launched a marketplace, added immediately 50,000 SKUs to their ship from home program, they're not selling fresh grocery at first on it. They're selling the things that, to your point about all in one place, the things that the shopper that she buys when she's not buying the weekly replenishment. And it's a desire from Kroger to use their brand and engagement and loyalty to capture some of that spend. But then you look at a customer like Maisonette, for example, which is a New York-based startup. It's a marketplace for kids apparel. Um, they have a very specific positioning, which is, I would say, very more on the hip side of things from the clothes they sell for kids.
The next Pink is probably what they are trying to be.
If I were not a Bostonian, I would say more Parisian, but I don't want to be called
perfect.
A snob.
That's all right. It's a global audience.
Yeah, and but it's interesting to see how it's not a one size fits all. There, you won't find any overlap between what they're selling and what Kroger's selling. But at the same time, every time Kroger and Maisonette makes a sell, it is money that is not going to one of those big giants who's trying to be everything to everyone. And when you multiply the 250 plus Mirakl clients, you have all those pockets of innovative offerings, curated offerings, personalized offerings that are really bringing alternatives to customers. And as we look at what people buy, there is more and more uniqueness to everyone. So for me, going back to your initial question, and I'll stop there, but I think it makes sense for large companies to test out marketplaces as a internationalization strategy, as a very specific niche market addressing strategy. You can try to go and sell on Amazon for a few months to see why you should stop doing it. That's my recommendation.
So you want to be a big fish in a little pond, maybe a variety of little ponds, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think there's there's easy money to be made on Amazon, but it's a bit short-sighted from a third-party brand standpoint. You won't win in the long run.
It's definitely a 80-20 principle on Amazon. It's probably more 5-95. So those top vendors, they're getting massive funding, they're getting bought out, they're getting rolled up. It's a whole.
Yeah, you have all the companies like Thrasio, for example, right now, which are raising massive amount of capital to do those build-ups of Amazon sellers. Yep. And you're absolutely right. Today, it's 5% of Amazon sellers make 95% of the business. So.
Yeah, that was a guess. With Kroger, is it like, Walmart has moved so quickly and so innovatively in some cases, both by partnering and not doing everything themselves, to launch a marketplace because the common enemy strategy, Amazon, was killing them. So they responded, they reacted. Probably took too long, but depends how you want to review them. So is Kroger just trying to say, well, we can do our own marketplace. We can sell anything. We've already got massive amounts of users. We've got, frequent flyer loyalty people. We've got all this stuff. And is that the strategy using your technology?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to talk on behalf of them on their strategy, but I think that if you think of marketplaces as we deploy them for customers like Kroger, you think of it as a theory of concentric circles. There is the small circle, which is really the core of who you are, what you stand for, what makes the core of what you sell. And then you have the first rim, which is all those products that are complementary to your core and very easily sellable as a complement. And then there is a second rim, which is the adjacencies, and then there is the third rim, which is kind of how you naturally evolve by. I'll tell you an example. My previous company was a marketplace. It was not a marketplace technology. It was a marketplace. It was acquired by a large retailer in Europe, which used to be the number one seller of books, DVDs, and CDs, like $4 billion worth of those. So it's a big size business. And as you know, 2008, 9, 10, selling CDs, DVDs, and it's not the ideal market to be in. Right. But for example, one of the big selling section were cooking books. So what they did through the marketplace was test, small appliance online and then say, you know what, let's reinvent our stores. And fast forward, if you go into a store now, you'll see cooking workshops on the weekends, you'll see cooking books, but surrounded by cooking appliances, and it's and long fast forward, it's now a $10 billion business, which drives 17% of that from categories of products that they did not sell before launching a marketplace.
That's a great example. And it also kind of shows how digital can lead the in-store strategy and totally change the platform altogether versus what you look at now. It's like, hey, I'm going into Walmart and I was really going to get groceries. And the next thing I know, I'm buying a lawnmower. It's like they don't even sell, or some hemp product from a guy in Santa Cruz, California. So some of the products make sense, some don't. That's a great example of they totally changed their platform. And actually the fact that they survived from selling CDs is a good story too. You mentioned
400% over the last 8 years.
Yeah, well, that was a good acquisition they made. That is what we call accretive acquisitions. You could never have predicted that, which is fantastic.
It was a bit cheaper than buying Jet for $3.5 billion.
I knew you'd slip that in there. It was a good one. You mentioned something there, though. I don't want to let it go. You mentioned how do you make these marketplaces more engaging, more useful? So you mentioned personalization. Tell me what's going on there. You've got to get, so for instance, Revive, the sponsor of this program, is it's a personalization technology, allows you to take a picture of your face and it automatically then will recommend all the skincare products you need at, let's say, at a Kroger. So instead of looking at 50 products, you're looking at the 5 that are focused on you. It's like technology that helps personalization. What types of things are you guys trying to help these retailers and brands?
Technologies like the one you've described are completely complementary. From our end, the personalization is really more about. I'm trying to look for an example, but as you referred to, central shopping cart, basically, or buy everything in one place.
Mm-hmm. We found consolidated shopping.
Consolidated shopping. We found that a lot of abandoned carts with our retail clients used to be where people would come in, they'd search for a product, they'd add it to cart, and then they would want to complement that product with something else, and it would be missing on the website. So they would then abandon the cart because they would say, I don't want to buy this there and that there. And so a lot of what our customers do with once they've deployed Mirakl Marketplace is try to build those complementary journeys and promote them much more on the website to create, instead of buying one product or abandoning, it becomes buying 4 products. So what we see in terms of data is that baskets that contain mixed, products like 1P and 3P end up usually being twice the size of baskets that only contain 1P items.
Yeah, so that is like anticipating consumers' needs in that shopping journey. I always get a kick out of abandoned shopping carts. Can you imagine if people did that like in the real world? You'd go into a Walmart and there'd be like 50 carts half full blocking the aisle. But I digress. It's people like Safeway do that all the time. It's like there's pasta and then there's a wine kind of paired in the aisles, but I don't think it really moves the needle a lot. Online, it can be so much better. I abandoned a cart yesterday. In Amazon, I even tried Walmart. Probably not on the right brands in the first place, but I was just trying to get a his and hers kind of outfits and things like that, and it was pathetic. And it immediately went to all of the marketplace vendors. So I tried to push, all the marketplace vendors that said, here's a his and hers shirt, and they were awful. And so I ended up abandoning and just having to go pick one here and one there. And that most consumers, I was on a mission. Most would not do that. They just leave, right? And kind of go back and start over someplace else. Does your technology on the personalization side, though, does it anticipate, does it help kind of that journey? Like you'll actually know what they're searching for, kind of like Amazon, and serve up something? Or is it more I have to type in what I need? Or it's kind of an AI question.
the way we've built Mirakl is to really be a platform that complements the existing tech ecosystem out there. We really wanted to focus on the core hard marketplace related, workflows and functions and services, and not try to be redundant with things that are out there. So typically we don't have a personalization engine because there are
Many out there
numerous
you can use,
number
sure. Yeah.
of great personalization solutions out there, but we're all API based, and I want to bore people with technology, and I'm just repeating things that I have no clue about what they mean myself.
Yeah, you're losing the audience.
but I mean, all things serious.
Yeah.
If you think of a Mirakl implementation, think of it as a platform which has a lot of arms attached to a lot of the tools that are out there in the stack, and that's how we operate.
So that brings me to another question. How does a brand or a retailer, in some cases, decide whether they should be part of a marketplace or start their own marketplace?
So
is that too complicated to answer?
No, it's not too complicated, but I think it goes back to one of the questions I always ask when I start a conversation with some potential partners and clients. I usually tell them, like, close your eyes. Imagine 10 years from now, do you want to be a consolidator or do you want to be consolidated? And that's kind of kicking off the conversation. And you can be a very successful consolidator, but history shows that it's a bit more rare to end up being a successful consolidator. People end up forgetting about you. And so the way we look at things is that anyone can be a consolidator, but there's two things to have in mind. Either you're going to be successful consolidator because, like a Kroger, like a Best Buy, like a Carrefour or others, people are already coming to you. The demand side of the marketplace is there. Or if you have no demand side,
right,
you're going to have to invest in it. And the level of investment, of course, combined with having the right vendors, the right experience, the level of investment will define the level of success you can expect. I mean, look at Farfetch. Yeah. It's the biggest department store of the world. It did not exist 10 years ago.
Yeah. Yes. Chicken and egg thing. If you add more content, they'll come. And yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
For some, it's like, but the easy answer is if you have a big audience, you definitely need to do it. You need a marketplace right away. It's like simple.
It should be as simple as that.
I probably took that.
You're hired.
I took right out of your brochure. No, I didn't.
You're hired, Dean.
So, Adrien, I really want to thank you for being on the program. Maybe to close out, just maybe some personal stories about what you've struggled with Mirakl. It's a miracle you've got this far, right? For instance, you've got a co-founder that you've done started other businesses with, very similar to Reviv, the same two co-founders. You guys are co-CEOs. How does that work? Do you fight a lot, or?
We're like Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. No, we actually we've been working together for 15 years. We had one fight. It was on day 2.
Nice.
And we had one moment of a slight hardship, which was when I left Paris to move to Boston in 2015. I realized that it was the first time in 10 years that we were not working face to face, sharing the same desk.
Right. Exactly.
And like little bird leaves the nest. When I came here in the US, I had to rebuild a company from scratch. And the first 2 years were really hard. Like everything doesn't work. Like prospects, it's slow. Recruiting is slow. Building a culture is hard. Understanding the differences is hard. Right. And you also feel that the mothership doesn't always understand or doesn't act like your mother would. Oh, my poor Adrien, it's gonna be fine.
Of course not. No. The mothership, sometimes the mothership eats their young. Just moving from France to the United States is culture shock. I've moved people both ways, but actually going from Paris to Boston was probably the best choice. It's an older city. It's It's maybe hard to fit in at first, but you must have had some minor adjustments there in your personal life and raising a family there.
Yeah, I'm still struggling to say, park your car to Harvard Yard. That kind of.
It was actually pretty good. So, any tips for some of the innovators out there about starting their own companies, getting on a marketplace? Anything that you want to part us with here?
I think for me, I would probably end answering your question with one of our customer said recently on a public stand. He said, "If I'd known, I would have started 3 years earlier."
Exactly. Yeah. Run fast, act bigger than you are, and
change is hard, but delaying change is it will make things even harder in the long term.
Yeah. Good advice. Well, thanks for coming on. You've been listening to Adrien Nussenbaum, who is the co-founder and co-CEO of Mirakl out of Boston and Paris. It's good to see you. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Dean.